Bobby, I got 2 minutes after the hour. We got about 40 people online here. You want to get rolling?
Yes, sir.
Let's roll.
Welcome, CORFAC family. My name is Bobby Lyons, and I'll be your moderator today for the program, Strategies on How to Compete with the National Firms. I own and manage Lyons Industrial Properties, CORFAC International, in the upstate of South Carolina. I just celebrated my 30th wedding anniversary yesterday with my amazing wife, Nikki, who gave me 6 amazing kids, ages 25 to 12. We spent the night in downtown Greenville at the Grand Bohemian Hotel and Spa, overlooking the falls on the Reedy River. If anyone has not been to downtown Greenville, I highly recommend it. Truly, put it on your bucket list. Great venue. So my wife originally questioned why I would agree to host this program the day after our anniversary, knowing we're going to be in Greenville. So backing up and backtracking, and I really didn't have a good answer for that other than crappy planning on my part. So about a week ago, I thought about canceling this program, but Jonathan and Jennifer put so much time into this that I didn't have the heart to call them. So I guess, to try to figure out a solution for this whole thing, I sent my wife to the spa for 80 minutes. So that solved everything. So got myself out of the doghouse on that, and Jennifer and Jonathan are happy. And so there's a trifecta of happiness going on in my life right now. So anyway, that was my last 24 hours. I grew up in Long Island, New York. In 1986, headed to Clemson University to study civil engineering. And by the way, go Tigers. Started in this business in 1996 and was literally a starving artist. Always ran out of money way before I ran out of month in those years. Fast forward 26 years, and we're now brokering. We got 2 offices, one in Spartanburg, one in Greenville. Got an amazing team of brokers with our company, and we're brokering all kinds of property. Things are doing really great, and we're also gotten big into the investment business, investing in all kinds of real estate. So that has been amazing for us, especially in the last 2 years since my son Luke came to work with us. He's kind of full steam ahead, and we're doing a lot of investing. So that's been a great division to our company. But I just want to say that if I can make it, talking to some of you young brokers out there, you can also. Persistence is key. Many times over those 26 years, I thought, man, maybe I'm just not cut out for this business. Maybe I should do something else. But stick with it. Persistence is key. And this is an amazing business. It's an amazing business for your families also. It gave me the ability to be at every one of my kids' sporting events. You just schedule around it. You're with your family, you're with your wife. So yeah, you work hard, you work strong, you work smart, but you can also make time for your loved ones. So that's one of the best things I love about this business. We all run into people every day that just work so much, they don't have any, they have no relationships with their kids or their family. And that's no way to live life. So weather the storms and persevere, it will definitely be worth it. So we all know that competing with national firms as an independent commercial real estate company can be challenging, but definitely possible. We're here today to talk to you on how to compete and win assignments against these large companies. In our market, we're constantly competing on deals with CBRE, NAI. We got Colliers in our market, JLL, Cushman, Wakefield, Tallheimer, Lee and Associates. So these are some big companies, and it can be challenging to go up head to head on them on some of these, especially the big Class A industrial properties that are coming out of the ground. And in our market, we've got about 20 million square feet that's coming out of the ground. Personally, I think some of these developers are a little bit nervous because activity and absorption has cooled off a little bit. So they're getting pretty aggressive. Nonetheless, they're coming out of the ground. And our challenge is getting these listings. We're great on the BC properties, getting listings, getting tenant rep assignments. We also do a lot of tenant rep on the Class A facilities. We just have a tough time competing on the listings of those new properties that are coming out of the ground. But Class B, Class C, any kind of land, we compete really well. We're doing a lot of business. So we're here today to talk about how we can all improve. One of our panelists today is Sim Dowdy with King Industrial in the Atlanta market, where King Industrial controls a huge market share. They are truly a fantastic firm. A lot of brokers. Sim does a great job leading that whole team. Sim has over 40 years experience in the industrial real estate industry. He's a CCIM, SIOR, a whole lot of other letters after his last name that I won't get into. If you look at his resume, it's quite impressive. He's even been the past CORFAC president. His experience in our industry will be enlightening today, and we look forward to hearing from Sim on this subject. Our second panelist today is Ed Del Baccaro, who is an executive VP with Tri-Commercial in the San Francisco Bay Area. Ed also has over 40 years experience in the commercial real estate industry. He's extremely active in his community and sits on many nonprofit boards. Ed has previously been the manager for Grubb & Ellis, Colliers, and Transwestern in the Bay Area. So he brings a lot of insight and experience into discussion since he's previously been with these really large companies. And now he's with CORFAC. So he's going to have a great insight on how he can help us navigate this subject. Our third panelist is David Pryor with Claben out of Torrance, California. David happens to be the founder and past president of CORFAC and also has over 40 years experience in our industry. David has been an SIOR for over 30 years, is past president of the SIOR Greater Los Angeles chapter, and he's on the board of trustees for the SIOR Foundation. David brings a lifetime of experience to this conversation. So welcome and thank you to all of our three panelists for agreeing to join us today and share your valuable insights. As you can see, all three of these professionals have over 125 years experience, combined experience in this industry. And we all today can tap into that experience and their lifetime of achievements. I want this session to be interactive. I want to hear from all of you. We want to learn from each other, so your participation is necessary for this session to be successful. We're going to be hearing a lot from our panelists, but if you want to kind of join in and give maybe a case study or something that has helped you to compete with these national firms, that's what we're looking for. So please feel free to add to the conversation. So here we go. Welcome to Strategies on How to Compete with the National Firms. Sim, I'm going to start with you to discuss the designations and training needed to excel in this industry and compete effectively with these national brokers. Can you discuss the designations and training you feel are needed to achieve success in our industry?
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. And I appreciate you hosting as well. Moderating, that's great. First of all, I think professional designations are key to compete, and I've got 4 of them. The most important one, I believe, is SIOR. There's a lot of people in the marketplace, developers and users and all that will not even look at properties unless somebody has an SIOR. And for the young brokers, that's the Society of Industrial and Office Realtors. There's probably about 3,600 of those in the world, and they're the best of the best. The second designation would be CCIM, which is Certified Commercial Investment Member. It's like getting your master's in commercial real estate. There's maybe 12,000 of those in the world. But when you combine CCIM and SIOR, there's probably maybe 1,000 brokers or so that have both those designations. So it makes you in a small elite group, I believe. The third designation I got was MCR through Masters of Corporate Real Estate. That was through Cornet Global. Cornet Global is an organization of about 10,000 folks that are real estate directors. Coca-Cola, Home Depot, Toyota, those kind of folks. And so I was able to get in a class with those people because you can't meet 3,000 people at a conference, but you meet 25 or 30 in a class. So that worked out really well. And because of those 3 designations, I was invited to pitch business for General Mills. Did the largest deal I've ever done and my company's ever done. It was over 1,508,000 square feet, so over 1.5 million square feet. And I got picked because The lead broker out of Minneapolis was an SIR. His partner out of Chicago was a CCIM. The head guy for real estate, the real estate director for General Mills, is an MCR out of Cornet Global. And he also taught classes. And so it was like the perfect storm. And I was able to win that business and make that deal. And then the fourth designation I got was SLCR, which is Senior Leadership of Corporate Real Estate. That's also out of Cornet Global. And I'm working on a deal right now from a broker out of Indianapolis who has all four of those designations. And I guarantee there's not 10 people in the world that have all four of them. I think when I got my MCR, there were only 8 people at the time that had all 3 of those. But this guy sent me an email saying, I'm looking for a broker in Atlanta. And he said, you had all the designations I have, you win. So I think it's really important to have these designations. One other thing I would say is the CCIM education, which is probably easier to get to than SIR, it takes a while to build up your resume for SIR. But those education classes will transfer to SIR to help you get that designation. But I say if I had to do one thing over again, I would not just have taken the education for CCIM, but I would also have taken the SIR classes, because then I would have met with other SIRs who've taken classes, and I could have built some more relationships and networking abilities through that. So sorry for the long answer, but that's what I think.
No, that's a great answer. Perfect, Sim. Thank you for sharing that. David, can you discuss your expectations or the expectations of business attire in our industry that may or may not have changed since COVID? Also, are there different meetings or situations that require a different level of dress to try to stand out as a professional in our industry?
Thanks, Bobby. Good morning, everyone. This topic was brought to me. I didn't bring this topic to this discussion. We had some next gen guys in the office make a presentation, and they came back and we were talking about it, and they said something to the effect, I'm not sure we were dressed up enough. I'm not sure we were as professional as our competitors. And so I think this is really sort of a self-reflection. I wore a suit and tie every day for 30 years. And we've, if you saw the front page, the 4 of us, I was the only one without a tie. I'm not sure that we need to wear ties, but I see the people in my office dressing. I'm from Los Angeles, very casual. Some of our clients are casual, but I think it's self-reflective. You know, I don't need to dress up because I already have my clients, and everybody on the panel has a list of clients, and they have relationships that transcend how you look for the most part. I mean, you can't be a slob, but I really think that at least in our company, we've gone too far. Pardon me, we've gone too far. And so the comment is, look at yourself, particularly if you're young, trying to secure a listing, maybe on a Class A building, and you're competing with a team from a major company. And, you know, it may seem trivial to you. You may say, oh, God, he's just an old guy. Trust me, it's important. Reflect. If you keep losing and you don't look the part, you're not going to get the business. You know, my son's a cameraman. I can tell you that people who don't look the part in Hollywood, they do not get the business. So maybe you have to look the part a little more, and I'll leave it at that. But be self-reflective. It's okay to wear a nice dress shirt and a coat, maybe a tie when you're making an important presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, David.
I have a comment, Bobby, on that.
Yes.
This is Ed. A simple comment is, if you dress up for a presentation, you are telling the client, you're important. I respect you. That's why I'm dressing up.
Yes, great comment.
Yep. Perfect, Ed. Thank you, David. Ed, can you discuss the strategies on how to break into a new and growing market segment? I understand you and your team have gotten very active in the life sciences in the Bay Area. If everyone can mute, someone is not on mute. So you've gotten very active in life sciences in the Bay Area. Can you discuss this, and also how any of us can break into a new market segment moving forward?
Thanks, Bobby, and I'll address that. By the way, I'm next to a highway, my office, so if you hear trucks, that's me.
Gotcha.
So again, one reason I love our business is you can change your job within your job and you can grow. So it's not doing the same thing for so many years. So during the 2010 crisis recession, I went from general office to a medical broker. Today, half my business is medical, and I represent major hospitals in the Bay Area and medical groups as a specialty. So what's my advice? Think of it as, what's your edge? How do you develop an edge to not only win, but to beat the competition? So think of it, and one reason to go into a new sector is like being a stockbroker. What growth sectors are you recommending to your clients? So are you recommending horse and buggy industries, or are you recommending businesses that are growing? So even during so-called economic downturns, there are growth sectors. So what do you do to become an expert in that? By the way, to the extent you become an expert, you're ahead of the pack, and you're going to be able to be there first. And there's only so many people within a complicated business sector. So what do you do? So in this case, we have a group of 5 of us from an industrial office background, looking at going into investment background, looking at going into life sciences, advanced manufacturing, which in the Bay Area is still growing. And so first thing you do is you have to become an expert. You have to be like your client. So you read extensively on the subject. By the way, if you create a filter in LinkedIn on your new subject passion, let's say life sciences, the more you click on articles, the more AI sends you same articles, and the more they put you in front of other influencers. So therefore, it almost becomes self-fulfilling. You should subscribe to specialty trade associations. I mean, in the Bay Area, there's at least 20 for free in the life sciences and pharma. Go to the specialty conferences. One of my young brokers went to one in South San Francisco last week, and there were about 200 people. He was the only broker. It was tenants and developers. Do go to the trade associations, and then interview. So you can't say you're an expert if you haven't gone through the ropes. So a good technique is I actually go talk to consultants who are in the specialty. I then go to economic development directors and ask them who the growth sectors are, who are the influence players. One reason I'm on so many boards is a lot of these boards have these decision makers. So I get a chance to talk to them one-on-one without, being, just cold calling salesperson. This is a relationship business, so you have to begin the relationship. You have to then become an expert in various parts of it. So in the case of life sciences or medical, most zoning in the Bay Area, and I don't know about other parts of the country, doesn't allow it straight up. You have to get a use permit. You have to have special zoning rights. So if you know those and become an expert, that's one of your edges. And then just a couple other things. Research the tenant profiles in the emerging growth area. You have to understand. So for instance, in life science, we have the incubator where they get initial seed capital. Then they get the proof of concept funding. They go to 50 people. Then they want to go, when they get the real funding, to 500, and then eventually get bought. So you have to understand each of those dynamics. You also have to understand each of their specific needs in terms of power, specialty improvements. Get to know the developers and work and talk with them about what specialty infrastructure they're adding to their buildings. And at the end of the day, you have to get out there and do it.
Perfect. Thank you, Ed. I know, just kind of segue off of what Ed spoke about. Sim, can you discuss, in your opinion, how important it is to specialize in a specific market segment, whether an office specialist, retail specialist, industrial specialist? What have you found out over your career?
Well, Bobby, I think it's hard to be an expert at everything, but I think Ed's right. You have to be the expert. They're going to expect you to be the expert, especially if you're going, big game hunting, right? And so I do a lot of presentations and I speak at a lot of things. Tomorrow I'm going to the Institute of Real Estate Management for Atlanta for their meeting, and I'm going to be on a panel. August, I'm going to speak to a presentation to the Georgia Association of Real Estate Exchangers. And so I speak. I'm doing speaking, panelist, moderator. I get interviewed for articles. I get quoted. and you want to bring value to the table. We do at King Industrial, we do a quarterly report, 2 quarterly reports. One's a point of view and one's also an overview with charts and graphs. And I send those to all the developers and bankers. And if they don't get it in a timely fashion, they call me up and says, where's my report? Because they want to see it, because they know we're the experts of what we do. So you get calls from people because you are the expert. And you also have to join Ed touched on this as well. You got to join all the organizations that are in your area and not just join them, be on committees and that kind of thing. When I go to the Atlanta Commercial Board of Realtors monthly meeting, probably every 3rd or 4th meeting, I have somebody comes up to me and says, I need to refer you some business, because they don't do industrial. So when you can sit there and say you're an industrial, especially when you're being quoted and you have articles and you're in the newspaper. I mean, I'm in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Atlanta Business Chronicle. They name me as one of the most influential people in Atlanta for industrial real estate, that kind of thing. So when you're getting named all the time, Atlanta Commercial Board, I won the Deal of the Year 2 times. So you're always being the expert. And if you don't, you got to find that niche, like Ed's saying, and you got to walk in there and be the expert.
Hey, Sim, can I just step in for a second? I generally agree with you. And Los Angeles and Atlanta are very large markets. We focus on industrial real estate. And to quote another member of CORFAC, Don Ossie, we're an inch wide and a mile deep. But some people work in smaller markets. And so I think that you have to temper some of those comments. I know a number of people work in small markets that have to specialize in an area and cover a lot of different specialties rather than just one specialty. So I'm kind of sensitive to that in these discussions. And so it might be interesting for people from some smaller markets to step in here and maybe say something. But I agree with you. You got to have good public relations. You got to be members of boards. You got to be active in all of those things. That's always going to be true, regardless of the market size. But I think that there's some difference in some of the ways that people operate depending on their market size.
No, I would agree with you. If you're in a smaller market, you have to do a little bit of everything. I agree with that.
Yeah.
This is Ed. Again, let's imagine in a smaller market, there's 5 things you have to be in to make a living. So the metaphor I use, just get a master's degree in each one of them. You're going to do some industrial warehousing, know about a warehouse. You're going to do some medical, know about what medical needs. You're going to do general office, just know it. Just be an expert in the various areas.
Yeah, Michael
That's
here
great.
from Shindico in Winnipeg, Canada. So we're a smaller market here, maybe 800,000 people, large enough to specialize by category, industrial, retail, investment, office, but not large enough to specialize by only landlord or tenant. So in a very big market, there are tenant rep specialists. They only take tenant mandates. And likewise, some only take landlord, but here it's just the market is too small to be that specialized. So that's just an example of somewhere in between the two. I thought I would share.
That's great. Thank you, Michael. And one thing I'd like to say is, Sim talks about getting quoted, getting his articles printed in these major publications. In this day and age of social media, we can be writing our own articles. We can be putting things of value out there for all of our clients, our prospective clients, and putting them on LinkedIn and whatever social media you're on. So don't wait for your article to get published. Go ahead and do it yourself. And I think that's a great way to get well known. David, in your opinion, what is the easiest way to get a Class A industrial listing from a developer that is coming out of the ground with a building? So how do you think these relationships are formed, and how do you, what's the best way to get that listing, David?
In the simplest of terms, sell them the dirt. I think that it's a great goal to try and get all the Class A listings you can. The way it works in LA pretty traditionally and pretty regularly is that if you sell a piece of land to a developer, you will get the listing if you have reasonable capabilities in the marketing of the product that's going to be constructed. So I think that, we don't try to take that much business away from people, because I think psychologically it's hard to take business away from a good competitor. But I think, you know, if you want to get into the Class A listing business, if you want to get into the business of representing those better buildings, know the land market, know how to do a very simple pro forma, know what the rents are, and learn how to present land development opportunities to the best developers, which means you have to get out and know them, and understand what their parameters are, understand what their returns are, how they're structured, what their debt is, you know, all of the intricacies behind them. But I can tell you, in my career, and my partner Todd Togner and I have worked together for 40 years in a fairly concentrated area. And so you understand, we have 200 million square feet of industrial real estate within 10 minutes of our office. That's a pretty big patch, and we cover it pretty well. Not just the two of us, we have a larger firm. But what we've done over the years is we talk to owner users. We're in an infill market. We don't have farmland. We don't have green fields. We have brownfields. And we've made a lot of money selling 35 acres of a refinery, an old office project, to be eventually entitled for Class A development. And we sold, you talked about General Mills earlier, Sim. We also have a relationship with Tom Hogan, who's the head of real estate at General Mills. He is an SIOR, by the way. And he was referred to us by a friend of the firm, and we sold the Yoplait yogurt factory. It's been demolished, and we're just getting a pad certified for a Class A 130,000 foot building. That process took 4 years. It's a long game. If you think you're just going to walk in and put on, your blue suede shoes and get listings on Class A, you're sadly mistaken. I made most of my money early in my career finding tenants, and then you start talking to other tenants, owner occupiers, and it leads to this sort of business. But I think, in our office over the years, we've probably uncovered, 70% of development opportunities that we've followed on with by talking to owner occupiers, and the rest have come through referrals like SIOR and lawyers and those sorts of things.
I'd also say when you get invited to the dance to pitch to maybe list, let's say the developer's already got the land under contract, and they're going to invite you and Cushman and JLL and CB and all that. Go ahead and make, although you may not think you're going to get picked, go ahead and make the presentation. I did that with Red Rock, knowing they weren't going to pick us because they didn't have their financing lined up yet. They had to get it out of New York, so they were going to hire somebody. They did eventually hire Cushman, but I said, let's do the best job we can do. Maybe they'll first business in the future, and maybe they'll pick us for something else. Well, what happened was we made our pitch, but then we also said, you need to assemble this land next door, there's 7 parcels, because you're going to need better access to the expressway. And so they wound up hiring us. They didn't hire us for the assignment, but they hired us to assemble the seven parcels, which we did. They didn't close on it, but we sold it to somebody else. And then that guy developed it, made it smaller parcels, and we sold those again. So there's other benefits from these things.
That's great. Thank you all. Ed, can you describe the importance of being an expert in local building and zoning codes, and also talk to us about the importance of the relationships with those people in those government departments, in those zoning and planning departments?
I think that's a key, and that's one of my edges. So what I do is I know the code. I actually meet with planners and architect consultants and ask them questions, and they gladly tell you. In a lot of planning departments, they don't get to meet the general public that much, so they actually like to meet with outside brokers just to understand how the rules work and not work. And so I ask them questions. I mean, how does this apply? How does this apply? And then in California, we have Byzantium rules, some of them mutually exclusive. So I get actually inserted into deals by attorneys and tenant acquisition and tenant reps for their CUPs because I know how to stretch an interpretation. So in planning, it's called contextualization. How do you stretch a 20-year-old planning rule to accommodate today? So like a brief example was Walnut Creek hates oil changers. So I looked up the definition of oil changers selling 3 oil products. So I told Quickie Lube that you have to sell 3 instead of 2 because it was zoned for gas stations. So they're there now. Something as simple as that. So knowing those things, then you get spread around your reputation.
That's awesome. That's great, Ed. Thank you. David, can you talk about the importance of presentation skills and how that affects our ability to win assignments against these national brands? Also, in your opinion, is this something that people need to be trained in?
Thanks, Bobby. You know, once again, this is a topic that the shareholder partners of the Claiborne Company have been talking about because I think that we haven't done a good enough job of training, helping people with presentation skills, and that might be a big topic for CORFAC to actually offer those sorts of training sessions at a conference for the next gen people. But I think that it's a skill that is not innate. It has to be learned, and it has to be learned over, you know, a period of time. And I don't think I'm doing a good enough job with our staff. So what we're talking about doing is doing some rehearsals, doing some role playing, and sitting and talking with the next gen salespeople on how to approach when you have a meeting with a potential client to secure an assignment. One of the things I like to do is when we sit down with someone we're competing on a listing or a tenant rep assignment, is just start talking as if you have the assignment. Talk about what their needs are, get them talking about the requirement, get them talking about goals. Then you can talk about the market. You can talk about some different strategies or avenues to help them achieve their goals. Pretend you have the assignment once you get in and do your introductions and so on. Don't talk a little bit about yourself, but always create the sense that you care about, and you have to care about what their needs and goals are. And you have to help them come to the conclusion that you're the best person to help them achieve those goals, whatever they are. I also think that written presentations are important. And I think that market information, I don't know if we're going to talk about market information, Bobby, but the key to all of this is having good market information. We do a quarterly report as well, but we know the lease comps, we know the land sale comps, we know a lot, we know just as much as our national competitors, and you have to convey that you do have that knowledge to the customers you're competing for. So I think that what we do a very good job internally. We all put comps into the same database. No, we don't have any private databases at our company. It's a shared access. It's shared information. We help each other. And one of the other things you have to think about is, you know, what are your strengths when you're making a presentation? Well, if 2 of our next gen guys are going to have a presentation, they can call up one of the shareholder partners with gray hair and say, will you attend with me and help us secure the presentation? Sure. We do that. And what I think maybe, and this might be a mistake our company has made a few times too, maybe we haven't suggested that strongly enough to our next gens, because I think that if you're 4 or 5 years in the business and you'll go up against me or a lot of the faces on this call, you probably don't have much of a chance to win. But if you bring that face to the meeting and that person can say, I'm a shareholder, I'm behind these people 100%. We're involved on a daily basis with all the transactions that they're involved in. I think that can make a difference also. So as for the principals, you know, I don't think you want to send your next gens out to the wolves if you think that you have a better chance of getting the business by attending a meeting with them.
Perfect.
Yeah, I
Thank you,
agree with
David.
that. Zero times zero is still zero if you don't get the business, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
You gotta win. But I agree with you also. You gotta assume victory. You go into that meeting, assume victory.
Perfect. And jumping on your point, David, about market comps, Sim, I wanted to discuss that with you. And I would like you to share with everybody how you feel the importance of market data, sale and lease comps, available property data, absorption numbers. I know you're huge into the market data in your firm, so I'd like you to share your experience.
Yeah, it all started. I mean, Charlie King started the company back in 1980. He actually came up with the first database for industrial real estate, and we keep it up to this day. So 40-something years later, I have 25 brokers that split up the Atlanta area. And every quarter, every 90 days, we take inventory. We drive by every building. We drive by every space. We're looking for somebody moved in, somebody moved out, new construction, have a research department of 3 people, and they are calling all the brokers, developers, economic development people, and we take all that information and put it into reports. And like David was talking about, we have all the comps, we had who paid what, what's on the market now, and all the information, and not just rental rates, we have operating expenses and all the rest. And we have sales comps and all that. And because we're out there driving the streets and all that, my favorite call is when I call an owner and I say, we want to lease your building. He says, you can have a tenant in there. And we say, no, you don't. We know the tenants move before he does. So it helps us win a lot of business because it also helps us when we're negotiating deals. You can walk into a meeting and say, well, here's the velocity of deals in this size range of deals. And there's like a 3.5-year supply. You want to be leased now or you want to be leased later? You know, we have a lot of, it gives us a leg up on just about everything we do. Plus, people that come from out of state, when they look at what we do as far as our reports go, they know that because think about this, we're tracking over 900 million square feet. I think CoStar is tracking over 600 million square feet. I mean, it definitely gives our clients an advantage, and we show it to them when we're printing out reports and those kind of things of the advantage that they have, whether they're trying to lease something or buy something or sell something. So we definitely have an advantage. It's a competitive advantage.
A little different take on that. We can't, our market is bigger than Sim's. We cannot do that. We don't try to do that. We focus on part of our market. But I think rather than trying to provide market data, we try to provide heartbeat at the moment, actual data on what's happening now, what's not in the data, what people are doing as far as transactions are concerned yesterday, what we've heard on the street, what land transaction blew up because of lack of capital. I think those sorts of small things that you hear by talking and sharing information. I'm looking at the Capacity Commercial Conference Room. You guys should share a lot of information because you're a big group there. And I think that sharing that information and taking real-time information to your developer clients is of great value, particularly today because things are changing so quickly. So I think, what kind of data do you give to a prospective landlord or to a tenant is going to help them? And I think it's that real-time stuff saying, yeah, I know they're asking $24 over here, but down the street, someone leased a building for $20 and here's the concessions they got. That's the data that people want. That's what
we do that. In fact, we won the assignment in the southwest part of Atlanta for Prologis because we do exactly what you just said. Plus, we're telling them about rumors in the marketplace, those kind of things. They want to hear all that.
Yeah, real-time information and communication is really, really critical.
Sim and David, I'd like to hear, well, Ed also, do y'all use CoStar?
No.
We don't.
Well, LA is fortunate in that we have the AIR, and it has a very good multiple listing service that's funded by the participants, and we rely on that. CoStar doesn't have as good information as this service, and I don't want to do business with them if I don't have to, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, we do LoopNet. Because a lot of our owners expect us to be part of LoopNet, right? So
Yeah.
we do subscribe to that, and that's part of CoStar.
So we use CoStar, unfortunately. I'm looking for a competitor to upgrade it. So we use interns, and we have to, when we do a given search, we have to check it because it's 30% wrong ratio or incomplete. By the way, to Sim's point, I have clients who send me LoopNet. Hey, did you check out this building for us yet? So we have to be a subscriber.
Yep. We're the same way. I don't know how we get away from, I would love to get away from CoStar, but I just don't know how. There's no competitor that we feel comfortable with that would have the data in our market that would keep us competitive. So it's kind of a necessary evil for us.
I was going to have Bill Gates buy them and then try to make it a better, or Mark Cuban, make it a better service.
That's great. Ed, what kind of technology does your team utilize and try to get, and how can you use technology to get an advantage over these national brands?
Good question. You have to have technology in today's world, or you're yesterday. So we use some typical local products, which I'm sure like Land Vision, everybody else has. We also subscribe, and brokers pay for it, Zoom Info. And so Zoom Info is kind of amazing in terms of how you can get emails, cell phones, and hierarchies for companies. It doesn't work so well as on individuals, but it's amazing if you do it on your company. You'll be amazed what's in the public record, whether it's your cell phone, how much debt you took on, things like that. So we use the Zoom Info, and we also use the title companies. So we have good relationships with local title companies. So for instance, if we're trying to establish a bio profile, we'll ask the title company that we have relationships with, give us all the deals bought for a 100,000 foot warehouse in these two counties. Who were the developers in the last 2 years? We get that. So then you can establish buyer profiles, seller profiles, etc.
Yep. That's great. And just adding what Ed said, we as a company kind of reluctantly bought Zoom Info last year. And when I saw the price tag, I about had a heart attack, but reluctantly we did it. And we are definitely getting more deals done than we would have without it. You can literally look up anybody, and I'd say 80% of the time it's going to show you their cell phone number. So we call people many times and they're like, how in the world did you get this number? And so Zoom Info is a pretty cool tool.
By the way, class we can eventually teach is you have to be a detective. So I also have a personal subscription to Spokio. So you combine Google with Zoom and with LinkedIn and other things, and you get a pattern. You see who the hierarchy is, see what their passions are, find out if they went to the same college as you or not. So again, what I call warm cold calling, the more you know about who you're calling, the better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to open this up kind of as a forum between the three panelists. And I'm looking for y'all to give some real life examples of how you beat out a national firm in a specific scenario. Like, what deal did you beat out a national firm to win that business, and how did you get it done?
Bobby, I'll start because it's always tough trying to go up against the bigger, the CBs, the JLLs, and all those folks, and trying to win business away from them. But an example I gave, and we talked about it yesterday, but I went to Norfolk Southern Railroad to ask them where they're having problems. where they had issues. I mean, is there a problem area that they wish they had some help with because they were having problems and they just couldn't solve them? And they said, funny you brought that up because we've been trying to sell a bunch of properties up in Chattanooga for 8 years. We can't give them away. And I can't remember who they're using. It might have been CB or whoever. And I said, but 8 years that, I couldn't do any worse than that. So I said, let me do this for you. I said, I'll go interview the top 4 or 5 brokers in Chattanooga, and I'll pick one of them. I'll team up with them. You'll get 2 brokers for the price of 1, and then we'll go up there and market those properties and see what we can do for you. And we wound up selling $10 million worth of stuff in Chattanooga for them. And they picked us because we solved a problem.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sim.
Hey, Sim, who did you partner up with there?
David Devaney. At the time, he wasn't part of NAI. He is now, but his company is Charter Real Estate in Chattanooga. And Dave is just a great guy. He was a wonderful partner. And I can't say enough good things about him. And we tried to get him to come to CORFAC at one point.
Thank you, Sim.
And he's also an SIOR and a CSIM.
I mean, I think that I talked earlier about the General Mills deal and how did we secure that business away from the nationals? By having strong SIOR relationships, period. How did we secure the Aldi regional headquarters in Southern California? We worked with a CORFAC member. He's not a member anymore, but I spent a lot of time with him, and we did a 850,000 foot build-to-suit for Aldi Foods, and certainly he was talking to other national firms because that's what he had to do on behalf of his client. So and how do we secure local business, like existing building listing relationships? By what we said earlier, provide great market information, talk to the clients, take them out to lunch, be a human, assess your dress code maybe a little bit, and show that you're knowledgeable, and show them, if I'm going to get brain surgery, I don't want to go to a hospital with 400 brain surgeons. I want the best brain surgeon. So you got to be the best brain surgeon. The size of the firm isn't important. Once you convince people that through your CORFAC network and SIOR relationships, you can provide national coverage. And we have helped numerous clients with information and transactions nationally by addressing that. I think it's as part of our presentations, and I think there's information on the CORFAC webpage. As part of a presentation, it's important to talk about your international reach, your partners in Mexico, your partners in Canada, your partners in Europe. Nothing will happen likely, but to show the map and show that if necessary, you have these relationships, I think that sort of diffuses the national firm business plan.
Yeah,
if I may add to that just quickly, Marcus in San Francisco. Also remember to mention resources. Small firms, like David said, an individual partner might show up and says, we're standing behind this brokers, we're going to back them up, and we're going to make sure the company resources are available to get this job done. While some of the big firms have the bells and whistles, they might not apply to smaller deals. CBE has fantastic tenant rep programs, but if you're not 50,000 square feet of office, you're not going to see those programs. So I think pushing the fact that small firms are flexible and actually add resources to specific projects and then get it approved. I make one phone call to Walnut Creek if I want something approved that's special. They got to go up the chain, the ladder, and see if they can get it done. And if it isn't in the national model, they might not get it approved at all. So I think that is important. One line I always use, anybody's free to use it. I always tell people, if you want a decent burger, you go to McDonald's. It's going to taste the same nationwide, wherever you drive in. If you want the best burger in town, you're not going to go to McDonald's. You're probably going to find it at a smaller shop. So
The Marcus Burger.
the Marcus Burger, exactly.
that's good.
That's
Well,
a
I will say
very
this,
good- very great point,
CORFAC has helped us win business. I remember we got the Axo Nobel business, and they were at the time the largest paints and lacquers for like race cars and boats and all that, Dutch company. And I will say $13 billion, well, actually is a billion euro company. And because we had the CORFAC reach and we asked the question, where else are you doing business? We wound up doing about 35 or 40 deals with them. That was back when Barbara Miller was their U.S. director of real estate. And she loved us. And we did a lot of deals with CORFAC around the country until they decided to move the headquarters to Michigan, and she decided to retire. And then, of course, the new person had a JLL or CB connection. But we did a bunch of business with them over the years.
One idea is how do you achieve a reputation if you're in a small firm as a regional national broker? Again, you have to understand most clients think of brokers in some markets as realtors. You know, can you sell me your house? And they think you're just a local yokel broker. So what I do is when I research a company, I understand where they have offices in 5 adjoining states, regions, whatever. And I ask them, do you want a market report on Fresno, LA, Newport Beach, Seattle? So I send them the Seattle report, even though I'm in San Francisco, and where they have a Seattle office. And they now think of me as a resource for a region as opposed to just a local yokel. So again, use the CORFAC network, as everybody has said, and send their reports to various people, and you have a regional reputation.
That's great. Thank you. Mark, I gotta say this again, Marcus, I love your discussion about McDonald's. I'm gonna use that one. That's awesome. Thank you. All right, so at this point, we're gonna open it up to all the members, just a Q&A session for our panelists. If any of y'all have a question for any of our panelists, please ask.
Unmute.
Hey, Bobby, while people are thinking of that, I just had a few thoughts. So first of all, thank everybody for being here. We've got, including all the conference rooms, we've probably got close to 100 people on this session, which is awesome. Sim mentioned the designations earlier. We actually have deals, meaning CORFAC has deals with CCIM and SIOR, where you get a certain percentage off if you start to pursue those designations. Bobby asked me the question when we got a deal with ZoomInfo the other day. We have a 30% off deal with ZoomInfo that staff worked out, and that's a pretty fantastic deal. So if you guys are, if you're a current user, I'm guessing they're not gonna reduce your price. But if you're not a user, that deal is out there. David asked the question earlier, which is, we may not be CBRE, we may not be JLL, but we're just about everywhere those firms are. And I would say the other thought I had was make sure you're inputting your deals through the CORFAC system, whether it's a CORFAC to CORFAC deal or just any deal that you do, because our system has the ability to go in and search for a firm. So if you're wondering if anybody in the network has done deals with McDonald's, you can go in there, put McDonald's in, and see that 2 CORFAC firms have done that, and you can contact those firms and say, hey, do you have someone you can connect me with? And for those on the call that might not be as familiar with CORFAC as others, David, I give you credit for this one because it was one of the first things you ever said to me when I joined CORFAC is you use CORFAC like your board of directors. And so if any of you ever have an issue or a problem or want to find a relationship that you don't have that someone else in the network might have, you can certainly push something out to all of CORFAC and ask that question to everybody. And I promise you within 24 hours, you'll get 8, 10, 12 responses. So I'll shut up now.
That's great. Thank you, Jonathan. One thing I'd like to go back to the designations before we wrap up with the rest of the question and answer. The designations, when we've been referring business to cities like Kansas City, Austin, pretty much all over the country. We've had a number of opportunities where we're getting business referred out to those cities. So my first thing I'm looking at, I've been in business 26 years, but my first thing I'm looking at is to find a CORFAC partner. If I find a city that CORFAC is not represented, well, within that CORFAC partnership, I'm looking in that company for a CCIM SIOR, preferably both. But if it's a city that doesn't have CORFAC, I'm looking for the CCIM SIOR, typically in a well-established independent firm. So I'm not looking to go to a CBRE and NAI because they could possibly take that client and start running with them all over the country. So I'm kind of looking for an independent company in those cities. But as far as going back to the designations, I am looking for both of those designations. I want someone that has both the CCIM SIOR. That's important to me. I know they're professional. I know they've been in business a long time. So for you guys that don't have both designations, I would highly recommend that to get that in the next 5 to, however many years it takes you. It's very important.
Not that long. Just
Say-
do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Dave.
Everybody's got reasons not to do something, and please spare me. Just go
Yep.
do it.
Yep. Perfect. Okay. Again, I think we deviated a little bit from the Q&A session. Are there any other questions for our panelists?
You got to
Wow.
take yourself off mute.
Not one question from Bill. Oh, they just went off.
Well, I don't really have a question, but I would like to thank, of course, Jonathan for putting this together, Bobby for moderating, David's insight, Sim's insight, and then I really want to touch on Marcus's point about the flexibility of small firms and being able to, be nimble and be able to adjust to a client's needs, whatever it may be, in whichever market it may be. Whereas the large firms, they're so specialized that, they may not offer what the client truly needs in those smaller deals or in those mid-sized deals. So I really appreciate that insight from all of you, really.
And I think
Thank you.
one way to approach that with someone is if you want to give it to CB, it goes in and the guy who ends up showing property and negotiating on your behalf is getting 10% and doesn't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly, David. So with TFA, we are a small firm here in the Philippines. We do have CBRE here. We have Santos Knight Frank. We have other large conglomerates. But we have the nimble. We have the small flexibility that we can dip left, we can dip right, and we can get what you need. And so, yeah, I really appreciate those insights. They're very applicable to our scenario.
Yeah, and what's also interesting for some of the next gen people is take that comment and look at it from a little different perspective. Our firm was making a lot of capital markets transactions up till about a year ago. Now we're not. So what are we doing? We're focused on listing leased properties, trying to sell existing buildings. And the capital markets guys at these big firms, they're just sitting on their hands, and the leasing, we're competing with the leasing guys. So as a member of a small firm, keep in mind that you're in a better position to adjust to the market than you are at a bigger firm. And there's a big advantage to that as an individual salesperson.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I picked up some Bechtel, which at the time was the largest privately owned engineering firm in the world. I mean, they worked on the tunnel and airports, all sorts of stuff. But I got to work on one of their projects here because they were doing cell towers. And the deal was very hard to find. CB dropped the ball because they represent them nationally. And so I wound up making a deal for them, very tough. And then I got in on the next deal. And then, I did 12 deals with them. Now, I tried to get them to use CORFAC. And they said, we love CB, but they dropped the ball in Atlanta. We're using you. But you can get in there. You just got to, when you do, you got to perform.
Yes, you do.
Hey, David, this is Robert Porter, all the way over in Richmond, Virginia, other
I
side of
know
the
you're
country.
friendly. Hi.
Good to see you. You talked a little bit about understanding developer models and returns. is there a template that you might be able to provide, or I don't know if CORFAC might have some type of template that you might be willing to share?
I'm not a big math or Excel guy. We probably have those in the office, but frankly, what we're doing to try and do that sort of ground up development business is we're trying to discover opportunities, first of all, and we're trying to stay in front of, the two or three developer, depending on their debt and equity structure and their capabilities at the moment. We try and stay in front of who the best buyers are. If there are 20 buyers, we try and stay in front of the 5 best ones because they're always rotating through the marketplace. And then we just do simple back of the napkin stuff. What's the land value? What's the rent? What's the construction cost? And talk to them. I think that they're smart enough. They're the ones, they're going to assess it themselves. But if you bring the basic, comp information, what the asking price is on the land, I think the most important thing to do when you're trying to sell ground up development is take a look at the parcel, engage an architect to do some thoughtful site plans, a single tenant building, a multi-tenant building, a divisible to 2 building, multiple buildings, present the development opportunity to them as sort of your idea as to what's best in the marketplace, what's in demand, construction costs. You have to consider all of those things, but I think it's more of a complex black box answer that we provide than just the numbers. I hope that answered the question, Robert.
Yeah, definitely helpful and understand a lot of those concepts you're talking about. So thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, this is, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Brody Cohen with Capacity Commercial Group.
Hey.
So for a lot of the next gen guys, one of the things that we're focused on is tenant rep business. We want to get bigger assignments. Sometimes it's hard to break in with, the national credit companies. Do you have any recommendations or strategies for how to approach that? And then, when we're competing against a national firm, what you see as the value proposition?
I think Sim gave a very interesting response to that. Yeah, you may not get it right away, but see if you can solve a small problem for them. See if there's something else you can do. I like that, but I think it's just a continuous providing of information, real-time information, and breaking the guy down over, or woman, breaking the person down over a period of time. It's not going to come right away. It's not going to come in one presentation. I think that one of my former partners, Murray Smith, he's about 85 years old now. He did a lot of Japanese business. Name a Japanese company, they all came through Los Angeles. And what his genius was providing information and making relationships before the deal. And we make a lot of money that way. We don't just, you can't be a deal guy. You have to be a relationship guy in my world. That's how I operate. So make relationships with them. Send them information. Happy birthday. It has to be real. It has to come from you as a real person. It can't be, send them a corporate birthday card or something, but, call the guy up and say, hey, did you hear what happened down the street? But it's a long process. Like I said earlier, it's a long game. In our business, it's a get rich slow game. And it will come to you if you do the right things early on. And does that help? He's muted.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Do you have any, from a strategy standpoint, how do you guys go about creating those connections with the national companies or, higher requirements? What's the strategy for that?
Well, one quick thing I can add to that as well from a tenant rep perspective is vertical integration. And by that, I mean, if you can go to a tenant and says, we're going to take care from the project from A to Z, we're not just going to sign a lease, wave goodbye, get our fee, and we're out of there. It's implementation of the transaction, especially for the smaller and medium-sized tenants. They need hand-holding. So they want to make sure that you can handle all aspects of the transactions because they don't have internal capacity to do it themselves. So if you do that with third-party vendors, if you're smaller, you can obviously sell it as a best in class. But if you talk to some of the JLL CBRE guys, they go to some presentations and they meet their partners for the very first time down in the lobby at the tenant's office. So they'll walk in, they'll do a presentation for transaction services, property management, project management, and their partners they're walking in with, they meet them for the first time. That's not vertical integration. So I see the medium, smaller size tenants, even the larger ones, they believe in the one hand to shake and one butt to kick approach. Be the leader of the whole project and not just the transaction itself.
Yeah, I agree. The relationship part of it is the long game. And just because they say no now doesn't mean that they're going to say no in the future. And, you know, it's not that you hadn't made the deal, you just hadn't made it yet. And so send them market information, send them information about their own industry, send them, have you thought about this solution? I've got a guy who's a manufacturer, and everybody's having a tough time hiring people. They're actually going to have another line of manufacturing in their factory, and they're going to have robots do it. Have you thought about that? I mean, and always just be sending ideas to them. You don't have to ask for the business every time, but make yourself a valuable resource to them. And it just takes a while.
They have to see your name in writing 7 times before they'll remember it.
One thing I'd like to add is when you have an opportunity, when someone calls you with an opportunity, many times these larger companies are really slow to the game. Like they're, hey, let's meet in 3 days. I'll give you a presentation in a week from then. And we have an opportunity to really jump on it and jump fast, speed to deal, and really show them that we want their business. And many times that's what wins the business. When they know you are invested and you want their business so bad, I'll tell a lot of times that wins the deal is they know you're aggressive and you're going to get the deal done. A lot of these people, you know, it's not even competition. They're not even acting, you know, in a timely manner. So they lose the deal from day one. So speed to deal, I kind of preach that to my guys.
I would say one other thing too, when you've met with these people, a lot of times people make a presentation and never follow up, or they follow up kind of casually, whatever. After I've made a presentation, I follow up with them where I'm sending them information. Have you thought about this on the project? What about this other thing? And I keep throwing ideas at them. So I'm front and center with them that hopefully I'll be in front of them when they make that decision.
That's part of assuming you have the business and you're giving them counsel.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Victory.
Thank you for all of our members for participating. We had a fantastic turnout today. Thank you so much. I hope you all got a lot of information and insight from our 3 panelists. Ed had to leave. He had a tenant call, so he said goodbye. But to Ed, David, and Sim, thank you so much for everything you did today. I think you created a lot of value for all of our members. The whole CORFAC team, thank you so much for putting this on. Yeah, can't thank you all enough. I think it went great.
Tell Ed he's got to give us a referral fee on that call.
And thank Bobby, thanks for organizing.
Yes, sir, David. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, everybody. Thank you. Great information,
Thank you.
great insights. Thank you all.
Feel free to call me, anybody.